As many of you guys know, Ninja Kiwi went crazy this week with a 1600% HP Elite Diamondback, which means the tier 5 boss has over 1 billion health. And I already took down this boss on my channel with an ending time of 11 minutes and 31 seconds, which was good enough for second place. And I initially was thinking about maybe redoing my run and optimizing it, but I wasn't sold on the idea until I saw this Reddit post that said this might be the biggest skill gap I've seen in boss events. And I'll be honest, my ego hurt a little bit seeing myself in second place with the time completely gapped by Storyteller. So I had to rerun this boss event and give it my all this time. So today I'm going to take you through the process of how I optimized the heck out of my run with crazy farming tech, absolutely insane defensive setups, and a time to beat out Storyteller for first place in the 1 billion HP Diamondback event. Let's hop right into it. Alright, here we go guys, gonna start this run the way you always gotta start your runs, with a discount village. As I want to save every single penny possible, especially in the early game, since saving money in the early game can pay huge dividends for your farming later. But either way, we get 3 discount villages and upgrade all of them to the middle path, then placing 2 spike factories as well. And the purpose here is I'm trying to spend 50,000 on towers in the support category, since they're going to be sacrificed for a temple. And you can see with placing all these towers, I have brought down my total money to 300,185 when the initial starting cash was 350,200. So that means we were pretty dead on with these sacrifices, only spending an extra $15. Either way, now underneath triple discount, we get ourselves a Sun Temple. And getting the Sun Temple up first is exactly the same process I went for in my initial run through of this boss. And by the way, guys, I'm going to be referencing that first run a ton in this video. So I highly recommend if you haven't yet seen that video, go check it out beforehand. But now back to this run. What we're actually going to do here after the temple is go for farms. And this might seem really crazy, because the way this event was structured is you start on round 39, which means the boss only comes out in 1 round. So I only have 1 round to farm. But the thing is, in BTD 6, you can actually profit off of banana farms in 1 round. In specific, you can profit off the central markets because they have really good sellback value. And then here's going to be the big farm I profit off of. A Monkeyopolis. The Monkeyopolis can be a great farm in this event because you have 50% ability cooldown rate, and on top of that, it actually got buffed in that recent update too, where the Monkey City now gives a 20% income bonus to it. So yeah, we got the Nomics and then spent the rest of my money on markets. And I'm also going to get a Bloontonium reactor in the back of the map and a glue gunner in the front of the map. And you'll see why I got these other towers in a second while we start round 39. Now, what I do inside of this round is actually going to be really important to try to maximize my farming. So first of all, I just let my farms go, get that Monkeyopolis ability off cooldown, and right after I use the 12,000 ability, I build an Energizer. This Energizer is first of all going to be a pivotal part of my tier 1 setup, but in addition, it's also going to give my Nomics a 20% ability cooldown reduction, and I'm hoping that'll reduce the ability cooldown enough where I can get a second Nomics ability off before round 39 ends. Which leads me to the purpose of the glue gunner as well, to help stall the balloons at the end of this round. On top of that, I also got a Gyro Falcon in the front to stall as well. And then right when the Nomics ability is about to come off cooldown, I sell these towers off because I also need to avoid a time penalty, which is difficult. Then right after selling, I get the Nomics ability available and use the money to upgrade some boats, which are going to give me additional income and provide additional sellback value to all these farms. Ooh, that was a lot of farming in 1 round. I just showed you guys the successful attempt, but trust me, to get all of this down perfectly, it took me a lot of tries. Either way, after getting the 3rd favorite trades up and cross-pathing my Monkeyopolis, you can see here from the info panel of the farm how much it actually profited. And it's kind of insane. The numbers you're looking for on this panel is current value, cash spent, and cash earned. And to find the sell loss of the tower, you take the cash spent minus the current value. So in this case, it's roughly $4,500 is going to be my sell loss after selling the farm. And then if you look down at the cash earned, we earned $24,000 in 1 round, which means in only 1 round, this Monkeyopolis profited almost 20K. And then I can also do the same exact thing looking at the central markets, which I only incur about a $750 sell loss on, but earned 1680 in 1 round. So those profited a lot too. And now it's time to make use of all the extra money I just farmed up. So first of all, I sell all of the banana farms and get a couple villages on the left-hand side, upgrading one of them to a homeland defense and one of them to a primary expertise. And then underneath primary expertise, I spam a heck ton of dart monkeys. The purpose of these is I'm going to be transforming them, as the tier 1 defensive setup is going to be a plasma monkey fan club. So we get those darts up, all of them to triple shot as well, as getting the tier 3 dart does increase the attack speed of the transformed fan club. Then I get an embrittlement towards the top of the map, which will be a super brittle, and a couple tack shooters as well. And here I made sure to get all of my tier 4 primary monkeys on the field before I buy a single tier 5. Due to the fact there's a monkey knowledge in the game we all know and love, the Come On Everyone monkey knowledge, which gives you some discounts on the upgrades. But yeah, we do finally get the Plasma Monkey fan club up, and the super brittle, and a glue storm with the top cross path, making this our tier 1 defensive setup. And this type of setup works very well because the darts have a low base damage but very fast attack speed. So when you pair it with a +3 damage debuffer from the glue storm and a +4 damage debuffer from the super brittle, they can tank down boss HP incredibly fast. But with all that being said, will I even get these abilities off cooldown in time because we waited to round 40 to do it? And the answer to that is surprisingly yes. Due to the fact Diamondback has a long spawn-in animation, and I have reduced ability cooldowns from my primary expertise, Energizer, and the event, these abilities come back so quickly. And you can see here with the Plasma Monkey fan club and regular fan club paired together, we take down that first skull incredibly fast. Then pretty much just endlessly using these abilities off cooldown again and again as we go. And that's the reason why an Energizer was a pretty big part of my tier 1 setup, because with the Energizer on the field, the Plasma Monkey fan club actually has 100% uptime giving the transformation. One other thing I do is after you get down about 5 skulls, and the boss has traveled a little bit of distance, I start targeting a couple of the darts from last to strong, with those darts being the ones on the left-hand side. The purpose of this is I'm trying to have the darts shoot at an angle where they're maximizing their damage against Diamondback, piercing through as many parts of the body as they can. And in most cases, you want your towers on last targeting to do that. But depending on the boss location, a different targeting can do it better. So with all of that tech being used, we ended the tier 1 setup with a total time of 53.28 seconds. And here's gonna be the interesting part of this video. I'm gonna be comparing all of my defense to my first run through. And my first run through of the tier 1 defense was 1 minute and 7 seconds, which means we got time cut of 14 seconds there. Not too shabby. And I attribute pretty much all of that time save to the farming I did on round 39. And speaking about farming, after this defend, I wanted to set myself up to farm well once again. So right after I popped the boss, I actually sold my Energizer and bought an overclock in order to get that ability off cooldown before round 42 started. And now in round 42, it's time to sell off everything once again, but we're not going to straight up sell the towers. What I'm going to do instead is get a Lord of the Abyss to create a pool of water, then allowing me to build favorite trades in the range of everything to get that super important increased sellback. Now, for those of you who are not aware, the way favorite trades actually works is you can get a maximum of 3 favorite trade stacks on a tower, and each one grants an additional 4% sellback, with the default sellback value of a tower being set at 75% if you have all the monkey knowledge. So through utilizing these favorite trades, we are reducing our sell loss percentage on all of these towers from 25% to 13%. Not bad at all. But yeah, after selling everything off, I get a Monkeyopolis and then place a base farm at the bottom and use my overclock on it, later turning that farm into a banana central. Now, overclocking it when it was a low tier farm was actually pretty important because the way the overclock works is it has a longer duration if you apply it to a low tier tower. And you can kind of hack the system by applying it when the tower is a low tier and then upgrading it to a higher tier afterwards. So that's exactly what I did. And then I got a couple more BRFs underneath my temple discount and sold the temple, allowing me to fund even more farming towers. Now I could have in theory kept the temple on my side and just continued to scale my farming with the temple discount, but in most cases you're going to result in having more cash if you sell the temple and then use that 100,000 to help scale your farming immediately. One other thing that's a little bit interesting about switching to BRF farming right now is some of you guys might recall in my initial run through of this boss, I went for boat farming post tier 1. So why am I going for BRFs here? Well, simply put, the BRFs are actually better, which isn't normally the case, but in this specific boss event it is. And that's because the overclocks are twice as good with the reduced ability cooldowns. Meaning if I manage my abilities well, one overclock can have max uptime on 2 banana research facilities. So yeah, we just scaled our overclocks and BRFs pretty quickly, as you can see. And then starting around 47, I got up an ultra boost, since I'm planning on ultra boosting my Banana Central. Now, why did I wait till this point to get the ultra boost instead of getting it immediately with Banana Central? Well, there's multiple reasons for that. First of all, spamming BRFs instead of getting the ultra boost allows me to scale my money faster from the get-go. But also, I intentionally waited to round 47 because rounds 47, 48, and 49 are all pretty long rounds, which means we'll be able to get off more ultra boost stacks inside of the round onto my Banana Central. Whereas if I just got the Ultra Boost right away on round 42, those rounds are relatively short, so the upgrade wouldn't have been near as effective. Also, one other thing I should talk about, which you've probably noticed already inside of this video, is there's a lot of pausing going on. And I get this question all the time. Why are you doing these pauses inside of your boss runs? And there's multiple reasons. In this specific circumstance, I'm trying to maximize my income for every single round of farming, and that's pretty difficult to do when you only have like 10 overclocks attempting to get max uptime on 20 plus BRFs. But by utilizing pausing, it gives me time to look at the map and find the BRFs that don't have the overclock effect on them and apply it before I miss out on too many crates. And then I also do utilize pausing a lot during boss defense too, which it's for a different reason there, where I basically use pausing as a means to think of my next action. Whether that's using a tower ability, changing the targeting of a tower, buying and selling something. Either way, pretty quickly we have scaled the entire map with BRFs, and then I do fit a couple Jungle's bounties inside of the crevices between the farms to squeeze out a bit of extra income, but we're getting pretty close to the tier 2 defense at this point. One other thing I also did is after I got 10 Ultra Boost stacks on my Banana Central, I started Ultra Boosting an Engineer hidden on the left hand side. And you'll see the purpose of this guy later. Now it's time to prepare for the tier 2 boss, and this tier 2 setup is going to make my tier 1 setup look crazy weak. The difference is quite insane. But starting off, we just need to sell off basically all of my farms. So I utilized the Lord of the Abyss favorite trades trick, and then get a Sun Temple right in the middle of the map with 50,000 of support sacrifice. And this temple gives a bunch of really important buffs to my defense. Those buffs being a 20% discount to all the towers in its range, also plus 2 damage, more attack speed, more range, and more pierce to towers in the range. And then lastly, some cash bonuses as well, which aren't as important. And in addition to that first temple, I actually go for a second temple towards the bottom of the map. And the second temple only has 30,000 of support sacrifice. And the reason why I went for less sacrifice on the second one is because I only want the second temple to provide a 10% discount to upgrades. And then after that second temple, we get up a True Sun God underneath the 10% discount, with the True Sun God applying an additional 20%. So essentially here, I'm getting 40% discount on all upgrades from the True Sun God, combined with the 10% discount from the bottom Sun Temple. And then if you combine that with discounts from the villages as well, we can get these low tier towers incredibly cheap. And you can see here I start off by spamming a million ice towers, as I'm going to get a Herald of Everfrost to help me out for the tier 2 defense. We get that degree 20. And then next I get a Permabrew with a ton of dart monkeys in the range, because that's going to be the majority of our damage for the tier 2 defense. Plasma Monkey Fan Club transform darts once again. And I needed to set this up 2 rounds in advance to give the Permabrew time to apply on all the darts. One thing in addition you can do to make the Permabrew apply faster is overclock and Homeland defense buff the Permabrew, which I indeed did. Next up on building this insane defensive setup, we spammed a bunch of boomerangs and built a boomerang paragon. And this paragon is going to serve 2 purposes. One of them is it's just going to deal some decent boss damage. Boomerang Paragon's not too shabby. And the other purpose is the Boomerang Paragon gives an 11.1% attack speed bonus to all primary towers, which is really nice to have when the majority of our damage is coming from Plasma Monkey Fan Club transform darts. Now you might be seeing me spam a heck ton of darts right here and wondering, Ryan, doesn't the Plasma Monkey Fan Club only transform 20 darts at a time? And that is true, but what you can actually do is buy and sell the Plasma Monkey Fan Club to spam the ability, which allows you to transform an additional 20 darts per ability used. And that's the reason why I have all these fan clubs kind of set off to the side here. Also, I forgot to mention, you probably saw me build it, but I did get a Sentry Champion on the left-hand side, which was the Engineer I was ultra boosting. That's a very important defensive tower to get, as the Sentry Champion does an absurd amount of damage if you give it all the right buffs, which I do have in this case. And then lastly, right before the tier 2 defense starts, I use an overclock on an overdrive in the front, upgrading it to attack zone afterwards, use another overclock on my Mad, and then 2 more overclocks on the Permabrew and Sentry Champion. Hit that Homeland defense ability afterwards, and now it's time to go. Starting this off with 2 Plasma Monkey Fan Club abilities used, and then I used the Ice Paragon ability after that. It was important to wait to use the Ice Paragon ability because I needed to activate after the boss has already landed on the screen, but I don't want it to activate too late as well, because I also needed to hit the first skull. Either way, after the Ice Paragon ability is used, I do 2 more Plasma Monkey Fan Club transformations to have every dart transformed. So with all of that going at once, you can see how fast I actually take down those first 2 skulls. our damage is just absolutely insane. I said this in my original video of the event, and I can't really emphasize it enough. The Ice Paragon is just so good against Diamondback. Because for one, it allows you to skip a skull, which means you don't have to wait out the 3-second invulnerability part of Diamondback. But also, through skipping a skull, you skip Diamondback from shedding a layer, and that helps your damage a ton, as Diamondback just has more parts you can damage through the entire defend. Which makes most of the difference for the final skull, because you'll have 2 body parts to hit on that portion compared to only 1. So yeah, the Ice Paragon is the certified GOAT of Diamondback. Either way, as for the defense, we microed all of the Plasma Monkey fan clubs I had on the right hand side, and now I've just got to start microing a couple of the fan clubs that I have towards the middle of the map to keep everything transformed. I can't just sit back and relax and use the ability over and over again like I did on the tier 1 setup, because I'm transforming roughly 80 darts this time. I just need to constantly micro them to keep up. And we did take down the tier 2 boss. I also tried to cut out the pauses for you guys in this defense, so there might have been a couple jumps in gameplay, but that's the reason why. And our time after 2 tiers ended up being 134.18, which is actually quite fast, as my total time after 2 tiers for my first attempt was 156.58. Meaning we're 22 seconds ahead currently, and our tier 2 split was 8 seconds faster on this run. By the way, I am going to be referencing this table after every tier of Diamondback so we can follow our progress. I'm personally a big numbers guy, so I love creating tables whenever I get the chance. They call me Nerd Halleck. And checking the pop counts of some things, you get an idea of what was dealing most of the damage. Boomerang Paragon got 2 million pops, Century Champion got 1.387, Mad got 700,000, Tack Zone got 400,000, and most of the darts were around 100k. And I'm sure you guys can guess what we're doing next. It is time to sell off everything. So Lord of the Abyss plus favorite trades boats are coming back into play. And I actually do end up selling my Paragons as well, because for one, they were pretty low degrees, so I don't really want to keep up degree 20 Paragons, but also selling them allows me to come back with a full farming setup, as I should be able to afford a full map of BRFs. One other thing I forgot to mention that I have been doing in these rounds is I've made sure to have bounty hunter abilities available when I'm utilizing these temples, just to provide them with that really important range bonus. That way we can get the discounts on farms across pretty much the entire map. But yeah, after the entire map is BRF-ified, we sell the support temple to squeeze out a couple extra farm spots, and then get back to producing cash. Now you might be seeing this and thinking, Ryan, you're forgetting about the one farming upgrade you need to purchase, a Monkeyopolis. To which I'd answer, I'm not forgetting it. I'm simply preparing for it. As you can see, I'm ultra boosting a village in the middle. My plan is to get a huge opolis here, and in order to achieve that, I need to farm up an insane amount of cash, so I'm intentionally waiting until I get roughly $1.7 million to make my move. And round 67 is that time to start preparing for it. So I actually sell a BRF and get a door down this round, which is the hero I brought. That might be a surprise to some of you because I used Geraldo the first time around on this boss event, and most other people are using Geraldo. So why am I choosing Adora? Well, she's going to be providing a lot of value on the higher tier defenses by buffing a vengeful true sun god, but also she's going to be a little bit of help farming wise on round 68, as you'll see what I do. But in order to receive her help, I need to get her level 20. So in round 67, I sacrifice my Monkey Wall Street, which gives her enough XP to hit level 20 after this round concludes. The Energizer is also helping her XP gain too. And then here's how I get the biggest Monkeyopolis possible. I start off by selling all of my banana farms. Now it might seem like a weird decision, couldn't I have just sacrificed them into the village? And that's true, I could have. But the way the Monkeyopolis determines how much cash it generates is not by the amount of farms it sacrifices, but rather the total cost of all the farms put into it. And since my map of BRFs was all discounted from my temples, I did not actually end up spending much money on them. So what I end up doing here now is selling my true sun god and replacing an entire map of BRFs underneath no discounts. This is the reason why I needed a lot of money on hand before doing all of this. So yeah, I filled the entire map of BRFs, but now you might be wondering, Ryan, since you sold your true sun god, the village doesn't have much range anymore. So how are you going to even get a big Monkeyopolis? Well, good sir, I'm going to rebuild another true sun god, but all the way on the side of the map. That way, it doesn't interfere by sacrificing the undiscounted BRFs I just spammed everywhere. And then I give a bounty hunter range bonus to my true sun god, and you can see the Monkeyopolis is worth $141,000 underneath a 40% discount. So there is a lot of farms in its range. And it's quite satisfying when you buy that upgrade and clear out the entire map. That's a big Monkeyopolis. And now here's where a door comes into play. You can see after I built the Monkeyopolis, my true sun god only covers about half of the map, and I want to rebuild my BRFs underneath its discount. So what I do here is sacrifice my bounty hunter, and that gives a door's blood sacrifice buff to the temple, increasing its range to cover even more map space. Then once again, for like the 10th time, I fill the map with farms. Oh my gosh, that was a lot of things going on, but it was necessary in order to try to get the biggest Monkeyopolis possible. One other thing I do when filling the map with farms is getting druids, of course. And this time I actually got a permabrew next to my druids too. The reason behind this is the permabrew will increase the jungle's bounty's range, allowing the bounty to encompass more farms and make more income per round. And also, for those of you curious, the Monkeyopolis that I created makes about $140,000 per round. Not bad at all, especially getting a farm like that in round 68, pretty early. And a bit later, we've made to round 79 with $4 million on hand, and this is the point where we now need to prepare for tier 3. Now, what's my plan this tier? Well, I'm gonna do a dart monkey spam once again, but a more insane dart monkey spam, and on top of that, I'll be getting more paragons as well. But first of all, before I do any of that, we need to sell banana farms, of course. And then I also rebuild another Sun Temple with that 10% discount, and get the tier 5 Super Monkeys Legend of the Night anti-bloon in the top left-hand corner. Because one other thing I'm going to add in this defense is the Vengeful True Sun God. Before I work on the Vengeful though, let's maximize the discounting with my True Sun God I already have on the field. So in doing that, I placed a few overclocks, then placed some bomb shooters down to get a high degree bomb paragon. We got degree 60. Did the exact same thing with the boomerang paragon, but I'm only going for degree 20 on this one. And I rebuilt the ice paragon as well. And now's the point we can sell the True Sun God and work for that Vengeful. Here's the thing with the Vengeful too. I'm actually gonna skip out on the support category when building the Sun Temple. The reason is I'm just purely getting this guy for damage. You can also see I got some Ultra Boost stacks on it. So we got the temple up, and then we got 50,000 of magic with the permabrew, 50,000 of primary with the mob domination, 50,000 of military with the Bloons TD, and 50,000 of support with the carpet of spikes to get the Vengeful True Sun God. Isn't it beautiful? And that's actually not it for the temples. I do get another temple to provide even more discounts at the bottom as well. It's Temple Mania over here. But that third temple is going to be the final one for this tier. After that, we get the permabrew and start spamming the heckity heck with these dart monkeys. One other thing I do is get a Lord of the Abyss and carrier flagship right underneath my Vengeful. This is actually really important because the Lord of the Abyss makes the Vengeful count as a water tower. Thus, the Vengeful is getting buffed from the carrier flagship buff. So that's an extra like 18% attack speed. Not bad at all. Either way, about 30 minutes of setup building later, IRL time, we got all of our dart monkeys and overclocks down. So now we're gonna play out round 79 and get these abilities off cooldown while overclocking and home and defense buffing my permabrew so it can go to work. Then after round 79 concludes, it's time to overclock. I've got 59 overclock abilities available. So I start overclocking every single one of my darts alongside of the important 5th tiers. And one tactic I did here is I kept the darts as a 3rd tier triple shot when applying the overclock so the overclock lasts longer. And then after buffing all of them, we upgraded to Super Monkey Fan Clubs, as a transformed Super Monkey Fan Club attacks faster than a transformed triple shot. And lastly, I also did get a couple Sun Avatars on the outskirts, as these are locations where triple shots would not be able to reach the boss. Plus, Sun Avatars do still deal some decent damage since I've got a door inside of my strategy. They still aren't near as space efficient as Dart Monkeys, but when the Dart Monkeys aren't reaching anyways, these are the better play. And now the tier 3 setup is finally complete. So it's time to take on this 64 million HP Diamondback. And off the start, I did the exact same thing I did last time. Used a couple Plasma Monkey Fan Clubs, then used the Ice Paragon ability, and spammed more Plasma Monkey Fan Clubs after that. Also using Homeland Defense and Glue Storm, then using my Boomerang ability and my Bomb ability. You can see the Bomb ability is actually so strong too. Like, this Paragon is great against Diamondback. I'm going to play this in slow speed so you can just look at the health tank down from that bomb ability. It's crazy how much damage it deals. I also do have it on last targeting so it like flies through the tail, which I think is the main reason why it's so good. So yeah, we tank down those first 2 skulls very quickly and then get down that 3rd skull quickly as well, even though I don't have a bomb ability available. And I intentionally make sure not to use the bomb ability off cooldown here because we want to wait until the immunity part of Diamondback is over. Timing your Paragon abilities so they aren't used during immunity is very important. But after the immunity, we use the bomb ability again, and it takes out over half of that Skull's HP. The 50% ability cooldown rate also helps the bomb Paragon a ton, so I think that's one other reason why it's so strong in this event. But maybe I'm glazing the bomb too much. Let me know in the comment section down below if the bomb deserves the glaze. I'm turning it into like a glazed donut over here, to be honest, guys. Pretty quickly, we get down to 3 skulls remaining, only 24 million HP left. This is essentially tier 5 elite Diamondback we're facing on tier 3. That's just how insane the HP modifier is. But let's see how much damage my bomb Paragon does. And it looks like that was maybe half the skull this time. You can clearly see how your damage is scaling in the negative direction as you break down more of Diamondback's parts. That's the whole mechanic of this boss at the end of the day. A couple seconds later, we make it to the final skull. I use one more bomb ability, which dealt like maybe a 1/6 of that skull HP, not much this time. And we're just able to DPS the rest of the HP. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Ending tier 3 with a total time of 227.6. And this is the point at which my current run diverges a lot from the previous run in time. As in my initial run, we were at 352, which means currently I'm paced a minute 24 ahead. And that tier 3 split in specific was a minute and 2 seconds faster. And I attribute a lot of that to the Vengeful, first of all, because that got 15.6 million pops against a 64 million HP boss, so that was almost a fourth of the damage. Also, the bomb Paragon got 24 million pops. I mean, I knew this guy was putting in work, but that's over a third of the health down. Taxon got 1 million, and the darts got a lot too. Unfortunately though, the Sun Avatars actually did not perform very well. They got a similar amount of pops per Sun Avatar compared to the transform darts, so not too strong. And yeah, I'm sure you guys know the deal by now, just selling off everything and refilling the entire map with BRFs, but keeping my Bomb Paragon and the Vengeful True Sun God. Now in these rounds before tier 4, there's nothing really too interesting going on. The only thing I did add that I did not have beforehand was a triple XL trap. I probably should have had this beforehand, but I low-key forgot about the upgrade. And the main purpose of the trap's not even to make money, it's to get pops, because the Engineer Paragon's going to be the next one I go for. And I do get that Engineer Paragon on round 92 at degree 60. I intentionally got it pretty early this time. That way it has time to apply its self-overclock before the boss comes out. And also I have time to re-ultra boost another Century Champion because I'm definitely getting that guy back. But besides the Engineer Paragon, I create the rest of my setup on round 96. And I'm actually not going for Dart Monkeys this time. We instead are going to spam the heck out of Bloon Jitsus. Before I get those Bloon Jitsus down though, I do rebuild those other temples, and this time I actually got military and magic sacrifice on those temples as well, just to provide a little bit of extra damage, because Adora will be buffing those. And I got a Wizard Paragon at the front of the map. Pretty much a similar spot to where my Bomb Paragon is. The location of this is quite important because I need the Metamorphosis to be angled in a way where it can pierce through the body of Diamondback on last targeting, and then when Diamondback travels a little bit, we're going to switch to Strong to pierce through in the other direction. Also rebuilt the Ice Paragon, of course, and I'm going to get one last Paragon before I spam the ninjas as well, and that is a Ninja Paragon at degree 20. Now the purpose of this Paragon is not actually to deal damage. The Ninja Paragon's not really going to be doing much to begin with here, but what it will be doing is providing a buff to my ninja army of increasing their range, and that is actually quite important when I'm going for this absurd amount of ninjas, because it allows me to have a more efficient Shinobi to Bloonjitsu ratio. And that's kind of what you're looking for with these ninja armies. You want to build your setup in a way where all of your Bloonjitsus have 20 times Shinobi buff, but you don't have that many Shinobis placed. And it's possible to achieve that if you have a lot of range buffs on the ninjas and build your army in an efficient manner. So yeah, you can see here I've spammed an absurd amount of ninjas. Then we're just gonna let round 96 play out and have my Permabrews start going to work. I'm also giving a Bounty Hunter buff to my Permabrew on these rounds, just so then it has more range to buff even more ninjas. I did the exact same thing in the previous defense with buffing the darts. Now, I might be wondering, why did I go for darts on the early tiers and ninjas starting on this tier? A couple of reasons for that. The first reason is the darts require a lot more attention. You have to constantly microplasm monkey fan clubs, and when you get into these higher tiers of the boss, you have more Paragon abilities you need to manage as well, so you can't really keep up with the dart abilities. And the other thing is ninjas are simply better. I don't know how else to say it. I'm pretty sure they deal more damage than the plasma transform darts if you build an efficient army. So it probably would have been worth actually for me to go for a ninja spam on tier 3, because I could have afforded it. On the tier 2 boss though, I most likely wouldn't have been able to afford a huge ninja army, so I still think the darts would have been better. Either way, we've made it to around 99 now, and the permabrew has been doing its permabrewing. And at this point, I need to prepare a heck ton of overclocks, so then I can buff pretty much all of my ninjas, or at least most of them, however many we can afford. So I do prepare those overclock abilities, and it looks like I've got 80 overclock abilities, not bad. And as you can see, I did the exact same tactic this time as I was doing on the previous tiers, where I don't have the ninjas upgraded to Bloon Jutsus yet. That way I can just apply the overclock buff to the double shots. Then after exhausting 80 overclocks, we upgrade every single one to a Bloon Jutsu, all of which on last targeting, as you'd probably expect. One other thing I do is in this back pool, I get a couple aircraft carriers on strong targeting. Those actually deal some decent damage, and they have map-wide range, so even though they're far away from the boss, they can still hit it. Then lastly, I get a couple more shinobis on the outside to make sure every single ninja has those 20 shinobi stacks for the max attack speed bonus. And yeah, I think it's time to rumble with the 240 million HP tier 4 boss. This is where things are going to get interesting. On my first attempt, this defend took me 2 minutes and 2 seconds, so we'll see how much time I can save here. And by the way, when you build a ninja army like this, the game lags a crazy amount, so the gameplay you'll be seeing in this video is sped up just to make it watchable. Either way, once the boss flies in, we started off, as I have been starting, with a Bomb Paragon ability, a Metamorphosis ability from the Wizard Paragon, a Sentry Explosion, and a Power Glove on the Wizard. I also did finally think to turn down the effect scale so the screen's not as cluttered. That doesn't actually change the lag at all, but it does help my eyes, so that's worth something. But you can see here, we do get down those first 2 skulls very quickly, I think in big part due to the Bomb Paragon. But also the Metamorphosis was putting in some crazy work too. Pretty sure I just dealt 60 million damage in like 10 seconds there, no joke. But then we've got to wait the 3 seconds of immunity, of course, using our abilities after that immunity phase is over. With all of these immunity parts that Diamondback has, it does kind of make me wonder how much faster times would be if you didn't have to deal with that. Because just think about it, there's 7 skulls per tier. I guess you can skip one of the skulls, so you have to wait 6 immunity parts, which is 18 seconds. And then you also have to wait like an 8-second spawn-in animation, and roughly 3 seconds after you kill the boss's HP for your time to pop up. So there's just a lot of default time being added to each tier because of all the waiting. I don't know, just a thought I had. Either way, trying to stay on top of the abilities here, we're about halfway down the HP, and I do have the Metamorphosis back at this point, but the Wizard is not full on mana. We gotta wait till the Wizard hits 100k mana before we pop the Metamorphosis and Overclock ability on it. After 3 skulls are down, we do get the Metamorphosis off from the Wizard, and we're also gonna switch the targeting from my Paragons from last to strong at this point too, because I think the angle is better. So I do that for the Bomb and the Wizard, and take down to 2 skulls remaining. Now, one ability I'm not reusing on this defense, which might catch you by surprise, is the Ice Paragon ability. Why am I not using it here? Couldn't I skip another skull? What are you thinking, Ryan? Well, the truth is you can't skip another skull. You can skip a max of 1 skull per tier of the boss with the Ice Paragon. Now, I could, in theory, use the ability again and slow down the boss, but in this case, I actually want the boss to travel farther down the line, because it'll give me better angles for my Paragons, and also it'll allow more of my towers to reach the boss. But on the tier 5 defend, I will be spamming the Ice Paragon ability because it will be useful to continue to slow down the boss more. Either way, 1 skull remaining. This last skull is going to take the longest, as you'd probably guess. Going to manually explode these sentries pretty soon as well, just to try to get those explosions off at the end. And with about 6 million HP remaining, I do get the Bomb ability back off cooldown and Metamorphosis back off cooldown, so I use both of those. Even though my Wizard Paragon's not max mana, it's still worth to use it at the very end of the defend. And yeah, we chunk down that final couple million HP pretty quickly with those abilities, ending this defend with a time of 353.5. which is much faster than the time I finished 4 tiers in my initial run through, which was 6 minutes and 5 seconds. So we're currently paced 2 minutes quicker, and that tier 4 split in specific was 36.67 seconds faster. Looking at this table is kind of interesting to me, because we obviously save time on multiple of the tiers, but I think looking at these splits, it exposes that my first attempt had a really bad tier 3 time, because I somehow cut over a minute, but then on tier 4 I only cut 36 seconds, despite there being a lot more HP to cut time on, you know what I'm saying? And also guys, at this point in the video, you might as well go down there and hit the like button, especially for this video. I put a pretty absurd amount of work into this boss run. I think the run in total took me roughly 24 hours of planning, redoing rounds, building the defenses, going through the lag. It was a lot. So if you enjoy the work I put in, like and subscribe. Simple as that. Either way, after the tier 4 defense, before I sell off everything, I'm actually going to sell my degree 20 Ninja Paragon I got for tier 4, and rebuild a ninja paragon with all of the ninja pops I just farmed. So you can see here with only 350,000 cash slider, I get a degree 80. But that's the only paragon I'm going to get right now. Everything else gets sold off, and we rebuild a map of BRFs for the 20th time. Nothing too interesting goes on in the next 10 rounds, but then we hit round 114, which is the time to start preparing for tier 5, as I want to prepare my setup a pretty long time in advance, just to get as much perma brewing off as possible. We need to give our perma brew a lot of time to brew things. Because as you can see here, I'm preparing ninjas on the right side of the map. Now you might be looking at this and wondering, Ryan, don't you want your perma brew on the left hand side? Because that's where you're going to build a lot of your setup too. And the ninjas on the left are just going to have better map coverage. And that's a solid argument. But here's the thing. We are going to move our perma brew without a support Chinook. Because as you guys know, Heli was banned in this event, so we can't Chinook the perma brew. But how are we going to move it? Well, you're just gonna have to wait to see on that. I first play out 2 rounds with the perma brew in this location, just so that it can brew basically all of the ninjas on the right. And then we bring out the tech, building a boat paragon on the left. This is how you can teleport the perma brew. And that's because anything that's on your carrier flagship platform will be transported to the boat paragon's platform. So if you build one of the other boat 5th tiers to the paragon, you can actually teleport towers, which you can see is what I do with the perma brew. And now I've got the perma brew in a completely different location, with range ready to buff an entire new section of towers. Before I spam more ninjas in its range though, I do want to also get more paragons, so I add a degree 20 submarine paragon, which I'm basically only building for the ability cooldown reduction, as it'll give me 10% more abilities on my engineer paragon, bomb paragon, and ace paragon. That's going to be the final paragon I go for, which I also get degree 60 on. So yeah, the ninja paragon is the only degree 80 paragon in this setup, unfortunately, as I was not able to farm enough pops for the other ones to get degree 80, and I obviously don't have Geraldo, so I don't have the luxury of paragon totems to help out, but I'm hoping Adora with her buffs will offset the loss in paragon degrees I have, which is why you can see here the next stage of development for my defenses is spamming the heck out of Sun Temples. And we're just going for straight up damage temples here. 50,000 of primary, 50,000 of military, 50,000 of magic. As I already have support temples on the field, so I don't need any more with the support buff. I won't make you guys sit through the long process and the intricacies of every single part of this defense though. We just finished building up the ninjas, got a couple more temples, a bunch of overclocks, and used all of my overclock abilities on the low tier ninjas before the defense, then upgrading them to Bloons TDs afterwards. One other thing I did add for tier 5, which I did not have for the previous tiers, is a Megalodon. I kind of forgot about this upgrade, but it is pretty solid in bosses, so I'm curious to see how it performs against tier 5. I was able to get 10 Ultra Boost stacks on it as well in the preceding rounds. Either way, the moment you all have been waiting for, 1 billion HP Diamondback with a try-hard run. How long is this going to take, and can we get the top one time? Once the boss comes out, we start this thing off by using all of my abilities: Ace Paragon ability, Metamorphosis, Bomb ability, Ice ability, Power Glove on my Wizard. I'm even using some Bounty Hunter abilities on Sun Temples and Sun Avatars on the outskirts just to make sure they can reach Homeland Defense, Mat ability. We're going crazy. And the clock was at about 4 minutes when we started dealing damage, which means it only took me 16 seconds to get through the first 140 million HP of Diamondback. That's kind of absurd to think about. Once again though, as I keep reiterating, Diamondback's not like your normal boss. Not all damage is created equal, as the first 140 million HP is so much easier to deal than the last 140 million. Second skull did not take too long either though. We hit that mark at about 4 minutes 37 seconds. And also, just to give you guys a feel for how laggy it is, you guys are gonna have to sit through 5 seconds right here of the real speed of what I had to play through, not with this post-editing speed up. And this is not because of hardware issues, it's like this no matter how strong your PC is. It's just BTD6. This game definitely has optimization issues if you fill the entire map with towers, especially towers that attack fast like Bloonjitsus and are buffed correctly, which I guess it makes sense why the game struggles with calculating thousands of projectiles being multiplied by damage things and trying to figure out the total damage output. But I've got to say, it is kind of annoying that playing a boss in the optimal fashion results in gameplay like this. As in total, this tier 5 defense, no joke, took 1.5 hours in real life time. That's how impactful the lag was. Lucky for you guys though, you don't have to wait 1.5 hours to see the result, as we have already hit the halfway mark in about 5 minutes 17 seconds, which means it took me about 1 minute 20 to reach that halfway point. And I think with this current boss location, this is kind of the ideal spot for my towers. My Bomb Paragon and Wizard Paragon are both shooting at a decent angle with their abilities, and the boss has traveled far enough where almost all of my ninjas can reach the boss as well. One thing I'm also doing during this defense is targeting the Ace Paragon ability, of course, where the runway is essentially across the boss's tail. But besides that, there's not really too much else to say. We're just using our abilities like we have been for every other tier. We hit 3 skulls remaining at 540, which means that skull took me 23 seconds to deal with. So we'll see how much longer the next skull takes. I'm just going to progressively get slower and slower, especially as the boss moves into a less optimal location for my towers too, and just sheds more parts of its body. 2 skulls remaining is hit at 6 minutes 11 seconds. So that was a 31-second skull time. 1 skull remaining is hit at 6:46. So that was a 35-second skull time. And this last skull is going to take the longest by far. But on the bright side, I have about 55 seconds of leeway to defend this to still get the top 1 time. So let's see if we can do it. Just really trying to lock in and stay on top of my overclocks, on top of the Mad ability, on top of these Paragon abilities in this last stretch. Using Bounty Hunters to replacing the sentries on top of the boss. It's going to be close though. We're at 713 with 58 million HP remaining. And then also have to keep in mind we have that death animation we're going to have to deal with. I end up using the Metamorphosis ability when it comes off cooldown here too, even though the wizard's not max mana. 720 with 35 million HP remaining. We need to beat 741, guys. I think we're going to do it. 10 million HP remaining with 727 on the clock. And it looks like we break down the 1 billion HP at 730. So then after waiting about 6 seconds for the death animation, we get 735 as our total time. And with that, here is the final table. Our tier 5 split was 1 minute and 44 seconds faster than my initial attempt. So yeah, I think this run overall was a success. We saved time on every single tier. That was an insane boss event. Before we look at the leaderboard though, gotta check the pop counts and see how our towers performed. It appears the Jitsu's got a lot of pops. I think I saw one of those at 7 million. I also got a Super Mines with 4 Ultra Boost stacks that got 5.4 million. Tack Zone got 12 million. Matt has 24 million, but I've had this up for multiple tiers, so that was accumulated over a long period of time. Century Champion with 40 million. And Megalodon, 33 million pops, all from the tier 5 defend. This is an upgrade I definitely should have been utilizing on the previous tiers. I did not think it was going to perform so well. Vengeful True Sun God ended with 277 million pops. We've had this guy up since the tier 3 boss. I think he was my second highest popper, only behind the Wizard Paragon. Even though I got this up later than the Vengeful, it still got 312 million pops. Absolutely absurd work from the Wizard. Bomb Paragon got 181 million. Ace Paragon only got 95 million on tier 5. I honestly expected more out of the Ace. And then it's time to check out the temples. My highest popping temple was 22 million, which isn't terrible, but it's not fantastic either. We got less pops on the temples farther away, of course, as you'd expect. But yeah, it wouldn't have been worth to place temples like in the middle of the map instead of ninjutsus, because with the amount of space a temple takes up, I was getting more pops out of the amount of Bloonjitsus I'd fit in that same area. But now it's time to check out the leaderboard. And yes, it is a top 1 time by 6.3 seconds. Oh man. And there's actually still 10 hours remaining in the event when I've completed this run. But don't worry, the time ended up sticking with this being the final leaderboard. Surprisingly, 4 people finished with times under 8 minutes. I gotta say, Storyteller's run is so impressive though, because they got the 741 time on I think day 1 or day 2 of the event, which isn't typical. Normally the fastest times of the event are all posted at the end, because people just have more time to work on their runs and work on their strategy. But yeah, there you go. That's how I earned my second ever top 1 elite boss badge by winning the 1 billion HP Diamondback event. I really hope you guys enjoyed today's video. It was quite the long process making this, and it'll probably be a while till I try hard a boss like this again. And if you guys did enjoy, make sure to use my creator support code MahalicPops in the BT6 item shop. And in case you missed it, check out this video, which is where I got my first ever top 1 elite boss badge. But I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.